Welcome. Got a little bit of a change of pace here today for wherever you're listening from, wherever you happen to be. We're sure glad that you're here with us. This is kind of a different weekend for us here at North Point. For those who are meeting in person, this is Sleep In Sunday. This is amazing. It is like our most favorite Sunday of the year, where we just tell people to stay home, be with your family, sleep in late, eat together, enjoy your day, rest. You know, church days are sometimes some of the most hectic days that we have in our calendar, and it seems a shame that that's how we use them. And so this is our way of saying thank you to all of our workers and just having a great Sunday. And then later on tonight, if you happen to be watching here on Sunday morning, later on tonight, we're going to have a big cookout at our building. The weather is supposed to be just amazing, good today. We wish you were here. I mean, it's kind of the way that it is. And we know that wherever you're listening from, we hope you find some rest today also. Tonight, while I was reading and watching on the television as I do, and I was, to be honest, the events of the last few weeks have really bothered me. I mean, it has worked deep into my soul, and I find myself watching current events these days, much like most of us watch a car wreck. It's like I can't turn my head away. I know I should, but I can't. I just kind of keep watching the death and destruction that is happening in the Ukraine now is so beyond any kind of logical explanation. And I know people try to do it, and there's some reasons why, I suppose, probably far more complicated than what I'm able to handle. But I watch it unfolding, and it is crushing to my spirit. And the political and the cultural division in the United States that we are experiencing is so intense. A year ago and 2 years ago, I just didn't think it would get any worse, and it just seems to keep moving in that direction. And on top of that, the unity that Jesus prayed for, that we were to have in the church, I'll tell you, most days it feels like just this hopeless exercise in being right, being the right one, simply for the purpose of calling the other side wrong. And it may be theology, it may be some practice, it may be behaviors, I don't know. But I will tell you, it is working away in my spirit. I don't know any other way of saying it. And so tonight, as I was reading, I pulled out my Bible, and kind of as part for preparation here, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to say. And I was reading in Luke chapter 6, and these words of Jesus are just stunning at how relevant and how timely they are. It's in Luke chapter 6, verses 27 to 32. It says, But to you who are willing to listen, I say, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who hurt you. If someone slaps you on one cheek, offer the other cheek also. If someone demands your coat, offer your shirt also. Give to anyone who asks. And when things are taken away from you, don't try to get them back. Do to others as you would like them to do to you. If you love only those who love you, why should you get any credit for that? So here's what I was thinking. Why not be a person of grace rather than a person of retaliation? Why not be a person of grace rather than a person who is filled with judgment? Why not be a person of grace rather than a person of anger and lack of forgiveness, lack of compassion? Why not? Why not be a person of grace? Years ago, when we moved into our house, right when we moved to Texas, we bought this house and it had the most beautiful green, thick, lush grass. It was St. Augustine. I'd never really paid attention to St. Augustine grass before. And we had it at our house, and I absolutely loved it. And also in our front yard, we had 13 trees. Most of them were really mature and provided shade and cover on the front of our house. Really, they were just, they were beautiful. But the trees kept growing, and as they kept growing, the ones that were closest to our house began to crack our foundation, our cement foundation. And the ones that were out in the yard and by the side of the driveway, they began to crack my driveway and my walkway coming up. And so kind of over time, I cut about half of them down just because I had to. I was going to lose my house. But I didn't know much about trees, and I didn't know much about how this was supposed to be done. And so I never dug the roots out. I just cut them down kind of below the surface. And they were maybe, some of them were 8 inches to maybe a foot in diameter. And I cut them way down, and I just kind of let the grass grow over them over time. And, you know, it seemed to be fine. Yeah, it seemed to be fine. And I would say it took about 6 years or so before my front lawn just died. I tried to resuscitate it. Back in the old days, I used to give kind of a weekly update as I was preaching. People were really interested, and they wanted to know, well, how's your lawn? Have you been able to get it to grow again? I tried everything, and people told me St. Augustine grass is the hardiest grass. You just can't kill it. Well, mine died. It just died. My front lawn just turned to dirt and these brown kind of shoots that would run along the ground. It was horrible. It was just the most depressing thing to drive up to the front of my house. And after a while, just testing the soil and trying to figure things out, I made this decision to replace my lawn with some Bermuda grass. And so I started digging out the grass, and I started digging out roots that were in the ground. And what I realized is that the roots in my lawn were diseased. They were deep, they were unseen, but they were diseased. And it was these roots that had gotten the disease in them and affected the soil and the lawn. And in that old root, I guess it wouldn't have mattered. The disease controlled what was growing. And as long as the disease was in the ground, even after I pulled out the roots, even if the disease went in the ground, nothing else would or could even grow until I dealt with the problem that the bad roots had created. And honestly, it wasn't until I tore everything out, let the soil heal, and planted new soil that healthy grass began to grow, and it started to produce something different. So think about it. What it boils down to is this: bad soil, bad lawn. Good soil, good roots produces a good lawn. I should have learned years before, when I first moved into the house, that there were 3 or 4 trees that, even though they looked kind of good on the surface, they were not producing fruit that was any good. The kind of fruit that hung from those trees, they were tiny, they tasted bad. I had a Bradford pear tree, 2 of them out in the front, and they just didn't do anything. It was just bad fruit. I should have learned, I should have noticed the fruit that was being produced. And it's kind of like us. Trees are recognized by their fruit, and so are people. It is such a simple truth. Apple trees don't produce peaches. Orange trees don't produce bananas. Unhealthy trees produce unhealthy fruit. A little later in that passage in Luke chapter 6, a little later, Jesus says these words: "No healthy tree bears bad fruit, nor does a diseased tree bear good fruit. Each tree is recognized by its own fruit." Healthy trees don't produce bad fruit. They produce good fruit. Diseased trees can't produce good fruit any more than diseased soil can produce healthy grass. So here's the deal. The kind of fruit you produce tells everything we need to know about you, about what kind of person you are, what you are thinking and what you are feeling. You see that the fruit is everything. Paul writes in Galatians 5, "But the fruit of the Spirit of God in our lives, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control." That's the fruit that walking with Jesus produces in each of us. It's a promise. Good fruit is the natural byproduct of a healthy living source. And this passage about fruit says just that. These characteristics are the evidence, the Holy Spirit who lives inside each true follower of Jesus. So let me ask you this. Are you desperate to live a life that produces good, healthy, life-giving fruit? As you take personal inventory, is there evidence of a changed life inside of you? How's your fruit? How's your fruit? Is the fruit of your life in keeping with a life that is built on the words and the example of Jesus? How's the soil of your inner life? Is it getting the proper spiritual nutrients? Are you putting that in? Are you tasting the goodness of God? And are you giving him space to kind of weed out and clean out the disease and in your life, produce healthy fruit of his Spirit? Will you walk close to him this week? Will you cultivate a spiritual discipline and make a way for his presence to change your life? You know, a good measuring stick is how you're dealing with everything that you're seeing in our world today. It really is. Will you dig deeper roots? Let God change you. His promises are good. Let him do it. As we come to our weekly time of sharing in the Lord's Supper together, here's just a simple reminder. The bread and the juice that Jesus told his disciples to eat and drink to remember his life as he was going to leave them in just a few short hours before he went to the cross, and then ultimately he would ascend into heaven. We do the same thing. Maybe we're not all gathered at the same table, and maybe we're not eating the exact same bread and juice that they would have taken when they were in that upper room. But it is no less significant for us today, a couple of thousand years later, than it was for those first disciples, to remember that Jesus came to give us new life. And when he left, he promised that his Spirit would take up residence inside the lives of each of his followers. And that act would be the one that could produce fruit that would make a difference in the world when we choose to follow him. Make that your choice today, tomorrow, the rest of this week, and beyond. Following him is the most amazing life. And the fruit that's produced in our life is in keeping with the promise that Jesus made, that he would never, ever leave us. Remember that as you eat the bread and drink the juice today. Until next time, see you.
Great is your faithfulness, O God. You wrestle with the sinner's heart. You lead us by still waters into mercy, and nothing can keep us apart. So remember your people, remember your children, remember your promise, oh God. Your grace is enough, your grace is enough, your grace is enough for me. love and justice, God. You use the weak to lead the strong. You lead us in the song of your salvation, and all your people sing along. So remember your people, remember your children, remember your promise, oh God. Your grace is enough, your grace is enough, your grace is enough for me. Your grace is enough, your grace is enough, your grace is enough for me. So remember your people.